So all the hype is finally over. Months of seeing Chris Williamson and James Smith in suits with all these people around them. And we get a drink.
There's not really any controversial marketing that I see nowadays. Obviously, Belly's going to get you very controversial. Would be the end of Reebok if they did that now.
Do you think that marketing now has the bigger power to influence the world than anything else? Because
90s advertising, fantastic, right? Because that's when there was some attitude. And I'm all about controversy and attitude and passion and power rather than just, this is a new brand of fucking whatever.
He went, so you're in some sort of like prison camp about to be shipped off to somewhere that you can't ever be got back from. You have 24 hours to rescue. Who do you phone in your phone book? Who in your phone book do you phone? Nice. And he goes, Prince William.
Motherfucker.
Illuminati. So all the hype is finally over. Months of seeing Chris Williamson and James Smith in suits with all these people around them. And we get a drink. Prime Plus. So like, and I don't want to throw shade because there's some things I quite like about this. But what was your initial thoughts when the announcement came?
It's difficult to tell what someone else is thinking unless you're already in their circle and they've kind of dropped hints, what have you. Anyway, when you announce something big like that, I think normally just because of the circle I see them in, I thought it would be some sort of education thing, some sort of journal along those lines, something that builds on mindset or education or anything along those lines. And to be fair, I kind of get it that they didn't do that because that's what they already do to a certain amount. I wasn't expecting that though. I wasn't expecting a energy drink.
Yeah, like, and I'll throw this as a big compliment to both James and Chris, really, but particularly Chris, that I built up so much goodwill and the quality of his podcast, especially the ones that have little brackets 4K, is so good that when he goes, I've been working on something for a year, I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be like next level. I generally feel that it's partly my fault here for feeling a bit disappointed because it's like, when you build up this greatest night out ever and the pre-drinks are really good, you go, this is going to be sick. And then you get to the nightclub and it's greasy and it's shit. And you're like, well, it's my fault for expecting it to be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I built it up being so good that I don't think anything could have lived up to my expectations.
And like you say, there's so much. They've already built up goodwill. Chris Williamson's already built up goodwill. Is already a trustworthy individual in my eyes, and several other people I know's eyes. James Smith, I just don't follow too much about him because he's a part of the industry I'm not too fussed about, right? But when it then comes to it that they're announcing something, you're already like, okay, cool. Like you say, I'm in, potentially. This could be something that's going to help me because so many things he's already done has helped me. Yeah. And I think that drop then comes from something that you realise, I don't need this. This is not going to enhance my life. This is not going to change my life. Could have been something entirely different. If it had been, and I think Chris Williamson needs to do this anyway, paid private content. He needs to like do what Peter
Well, like an OnlyFans.
Put people on a monthly subscription.
You want an OnlyFans?
Get topless and then interview Jordan Peterson. But I think there's so much more he could do. But that's my thoughts. That's
I also think
obviously
a little bit as well. Like I actually really liked, and I know we've done a few shows bashing the guy, right? And I think I've made this caveat before. I don't dislike Stephen Bartlett. If anything, quite the opposite. I think he's a marketing masterstroke. It sometimes means I don't agree with these strategies, but on the whole, I generally do think he's actually quite a nice person, and I think he's a very good interviewer. Right? Like he listens, he asks good questions. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But like when he released that journal that he did, I don't know, I never see it pushed anymore, but I thought it was a really good idea. Like having getting the hype of journaling where you scan a QR code and you get a video lesson from somebody in that area of field that he's interviewed although he hasn't interviewed Dylan Cartel, but like he interviewed him and then and you can get advice from them. I thought that's a great idea. And it did sort of throw into question though, right? With Tim Spector, with Charles Yeo, and all these people that have been a bit more anti-calories. And I'm a big fan of Charles Yeo, by the way. that you got Dylan, who's a very big calories guy, which means that I don't think you believe the things that you're saying you believe in on air. But that's a different conversation with Day. But I thought that was great, and I thought if Chris had done something like that because of his goodwill and moral values, and not copy that product, but if you kind of found something that like bought all the things you've learned, could have been a book, like a life help book, I would have bought it. If it was I was expecting it to be a coaching product.
Similar.
Like a pre-recorded mini course, like Ali Abdal's Part-Time YouTuber Academy, like a mini course that's not just podcasting, but podcasting, YouTube, marketing, like between probably the best marketer in the fitness industry and that's hard to say because podcasting is huge, but one of the best marketers in the podcasting space. Like I thought that would have been a no-win. A year's worth of film and content between them two would have been excellent.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't understand why they didn't do that.
Well, again, we can look at things that we would take from them, buy off them, from the ways that they've already helped us already. We've never really turned to them for the deepest talk on nootropics or energy drinks, or even necessarily, I mean, more Chris Williamson and James Swift, but productivity and focus anyway. And then I think, obviously, the realm we're in as well, we're not necessarily reaching for, well, we'll talk about this in a sec anyway, but we're not necessarily reaching for a particular can of something to enhance our environment or life or whatever anyway. Yeah, you'll probably see us with a can of Monster. Yeah, you'll see us drinking coffee. There's reasons for that away from productivity, so to speak. It's rare that I would be reaching for a product as such to enhance that environment, unless it is, because that's one of the deepest rabbit holes I go down, unless it is a particular nootropic that I've researched myself and I feel I want to test this out at the very least, or how it could help me. It's rare that I'd go for someone else's. Like even Rogan, Alpha Brain, tried it once just to see, but certainly not sold on it. I mean, it turns out to be super fucking expensive now anyway, but it's not someone I'm going to keep on taking because it's someone else's thing. It's something that I'm sure they're going to take. It's something that's going to help them, but it's not going to change the world or anything like that.
I don't see the link with it either, though. Like the thing I find, like if they'd done, and let's say, for example, they'd done the marketing. I appreciate that there's something that I want, and I shouldn't say he should have done what I wanted. He should have done what the majority wanted. Who gives a fuck about me? Like Chris, do the things that I want. Throw my toys out the pram.
Doing OnlyFans, come on, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Like, get your dick out. That's what the world wants. Like, I think I just don't see the link to it. Yes, Chris Williamson has done some great interviews on productivity. And I'm sure James Smith, for the success that he's had, is incredibly productive. But we've got James Smith, which is a calories in versus calories out guy, who bashed Prime on a video, and then has always been a very anti-supplement guy.
Yeah.
But then you've got Chris Williamson, who isn't necessarily any of those things, but I've never looked at him and go, oh, he's the expert of nootropics. He's the podcaster. So he becomes the expert through proxy rather than necessarily the expert at any one thing. And I think Chris is incredibly smart and is probably an expert at many things. But that's not his role in the show that he provides. If he partnered with Andrew Huberman to create a nootropic drink, I'd be like, okay, I get that. Because Andrew Huberman is the guy who is the expert with this. Yeah. And then Chris could be a little bit of the marketing, the productivity side, and sort of like work with other experts that he brought in the field. So it was like Chris brought together Andrew plus John Sire or insert people here, right? I'd be like, this makes sense. I'm like, but I looked at this. I looked at the two of them and I went, what? Why? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not justified for that, but it just didn't make sense to me.
Everyone's got their own goals. Everyone's got their things they want to be remembered for. Everyone's got their things they want to test out as well, you know? And to be fair, a large percentage of PTs would love to have their own supplement line. And we know this is the case because you're all flogging my protein codes anyway, because you can't be asked to do the white label research that PTs were actually doing 15 years ago when they were all buying protein off of the same Irish farm, which was a lot of the protein you saw in the market. It's a similar thing. I would love to go down the route of some sort of supplement. But at the moment, I don't know what I would do that would change the game, because otherwise, what's the point in doing it? There's no motivation for me there to do it. B, not enough time or investment to even consider doing that. So two guys who've got a great audience, I'm sure are earning fantastically. Yeah, why not? How many other people have their things out there? We've got Dave Asprey with all his stuff. You got Aubrey Marcus and or obviously not anymore, but you had the Onnit products and things like that. Joe Rogan, I'm sure, is invested in a fair amount of products, things that he takes in some way, shape, or form. So why the hell not, right? And the best of luck to him with it. But God, like, as someone who gets on the London Underground near enough every single day, you see a new billboard for a new B vitamin drink, for a new plant-based drink, for a new. I think it's, and apart from the Illuminati marketing with the giant eye on the can, I don't see how it might necessarily stand out.
But
Apart from,
that's fucking cool, though, isn't it?
it's fucking genius,
Like
right?
I love the can. I'll buy it for the can alone. If that comes in, like I won't order a crate, but if that shows up in a WH Smith's, I'm buying
Yeah,
one.
I'm not being funny. If I released any physical product, guarantee you 100% getting some sort of Illuminati marketing in there. 100%. Whether I believe in it or not, gets people talking about it. First thing I noticed on the can, evil eye, giant eye staring right at me. Not two eyes, one single eye. Love it, boys. Love it.
Are you saying that Chris Williamson and James Smith are in the Illuminati?
Both. Maybe not top level, certainly not 33rd degree, maybe 7th degree maximum.
I don't
Why
know.
not?
Maybe it's just goodwill I have of Chris. I just don't feel it.
14th degree, you get a lovely sash.
Yeah, I don't feel it. I think Smith's too outspoken, and I think Williamson generally comes across good intentions. I think Bartlett's in the Illuminati because he's 100% Illuminati because the I saw a short the other day from Chris Williamson interviewing Bartlett. And he went, "So you're in some sort of like prison camp about to be shipped off to somewhere that you can't ever be got back from. You have 24 hours to rescue. Who do you phone in your phone book? Who in your phone book do you phone?"
Nice.
And he goes, "Prince William."
Motherfucker.
I'm like, Illuminati.
Motherfucker. There we go.
It's a smart answer, but
great answer.
you're
But
giving yourself
Illuminati,
away, right?
and he'll get him shipped off to the other island. That's what will happen.
Yeah. That one that doesn't exist anymore, right? Because that died with him.
One of many.
Yeah, exactly. Jim will fix it for him. Anyway. But I think moving on to the product itself, though, I sometimes get more frustrated with things that are almost right. Like, it's not a shit drink. It's not a bunch of caffeine that will kill your child.
No.
It is not. It's not bullshit product like productivity supplement hacks that just don't work. It's not a bunch of agmatine and citrulline malate and beta alanine just to make your eyes tingle. It's not a pre-workout. And I think when you look at things like, if I remember correctly, ashwagandha was in there, which is a cortisol buffer. That makes tons of sense. So people don't become overly stimulated. We look at theanine, which is calming, and if people become more calm, they can be more creative. And this is partly the reason why things like psilocybin and things like this work. Cool. And I said this to you, like, when it came out, I was like, but doesn't the caffeine go against this? And I've had, I made this point, and I've had a couple of people come back to me and go, well, I've had nootropics that were the best in my life, which combined some of these things with caffeine, and they were great. And I appreciate that while I know a fair share about like the intricacies in the ingredients and biochemistry, I teach some of this. I am not a scientist, right? So maybe the caffeine level is at the level where it won't affect the other two. Like, that's above my scope. So maybe I'm wrong in this.
Yeah.
But I think if you made that two products, you have your morning B vitamins, caffeine, and maybe they didn't do this because what sets that apart from every other electrolyte, B vitamins, and caffeine products.
Yeah.
And then your evening theanine, ashwagandha product. I thought that would have been so good because regardless of what you think, right? As caffeine goes up, cortisol will increase, right? It helps you mobilize fuel. What has to go down when cortisol goes up? Like insulin. So you're playing around with things that are like, you've got a calming thing and you've got a stimulant. You've got something that's going to mobilize a stress response and something that you want to be a productivity tool. And I'm just like, it feels like it's 95% there.
Yeah. So I've looked at some of the reviews. I've looked at the dosages, and I'm interested. And there's going to be a day I buy it just to taste it. Of course there is.
Me
But
too.
you also have to remember, and again, this is not a knock on it, but you also have to remember the placebo effect is very, very real. If I give you a can, say this is going to increase your productivity and focus, 20 minutes later, you're probably going to say, I feel really fucking productive.
Fair
I'm really
point.
fucking focused. Some of those ingredients are not going to work on a one dose basis. Rhodiola rosé is going to take a week, if not weeks. Some people, it said it's advertised as zero crashes. Some people, that amount of caffeine are going to crash on it. They just are. Some people are going to get jitters. They just are. There is no one size fits all product on the market that can cover all those bases. But for the majority of people, bit blurry, can't see what it is.
Biovans.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That might be.
I don't know if you can see. If you could just see in the background, like we'll talk about what increases productivity, but you could just see a teeny tiny little tub of yohimbine on my shoulder there, like that.
That's not what I was expecting you to say.
Oh, what was you expecting, Clen?
What's because of productivity?
Definitely not Clen.
I've taken him for many reasons, but never for productivity. Like
Yeah.
I could potentially think of things like, obviously, the things you mentioned, theatine, rhodiola, ashwagandha, great. I could look at things like phosphatidylserine, could be good. Caffeine, the obvious one. Obviously, then if you start to go into prescription things like Vyvanse, Ritalin, Adderall, Modafinil, LSD, microdosing. We could look. There's a bunch of stuff that I could potentially look at for productivity. Tyrosine.
Yeah.
I look at
one of
maybe
my
things
favorite
like
nootropics.
resveratrol to increase blood flow to the brain. That's probably where I would go. But what made you point to yohimbine?
Yohimbine, I take for a few reasons. One, cerebral and penile blood flow. So why the fuck wouldn't I take it? I just don't take it on that regular basis. If I'm doing early morning cardio, you can guarantee I'll take that. And I just put on some ambient jungle from the mid
And then do
90s.
your cardio with an erection.
And I'm running through space. It's fucking incredible. And then I'm horny for the rest of the day. It's amazing. But what you'll find
Would you
with
do that over something like Cialis?
Cialis, I'd take. If I was taking Cialis, I'd take that on a daily basis. Yohimbine, I wouldn't take on a daily basis.
Yeah, because
No
yohimbine is a beta oxidizer, right? So it will increase blood flow to stubborn areas of body fat, right? So that won't necessarily mean the brain, or would it?
Oh, it can increase. It can.
Okay.
Right. Don't ask me the exact percentage of each one.
Yeah.
But it can. One of the effects of it is cerebral. Yeah, increase in cerebral blood flow. And it's increasing adrenaline as well. So perfect for me doing cardio, the thing I do not want to fucking do. Boost me adrenaline up a little bit, put on the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, fucking hell. At that gym in seconds,
Well, and again, if we're going to a fat loss perspective of this, right? Again, people are going to come at me. The calories in, calories out, like loyalists are going to be like this, going, "Oh, carbs don't matter." Yes, but from a physiological standpoint, right? If insulin is high, we cannot mobilize fat. Physically impossible. Now, if you're in a caloric deficit, you can eat all the carbs you like. You're always going to have some periods of time where blood sugar is going to be low because you're getting through all that because you're in a deficit. But if we're looking at trying to make this as optimal as possible, having a morning something that sort of increases cortisol, brings insulin down, fasted cardio, we might add you. Maybe it's only 1-2%, but from a fat loss perspective, and it makes you do it. Like you're killing multiple birds with one stone, right?
Yeah, and it's not something I live off. It just so happens to be there because I took it very, very recently. You mentioned tyrosine. I love tyrosine. That was one of my favorite supplements to take. UP, my God, that increased my focus and productivity. Definitely did.
Did you go through a phase at UP where you used to make your own pre-workouts? Because
I made several stacks. I made pre-workout, post-workout. Me and Alex made a intro workout. I made my productivity stack. I made my calm stack. I made my alertness stack. Mate, I bought them all. And then when I couldn't afford the UP ones, I went and found them online to myself and made it all myself. But I used to take tyrosine and alpha GPC as well. And I forget the exact name of it. Cognizin. Is it Cognizin that's in Newtonic in their one? Let me get it up. Cognizin, yeah. So Cognizin is pretty much choline.
I don't know Cognizin.
So boosting choline as well. I think that's the full name of it. Cognicin. Let's get it up. Come on, load. Cognicin. No, they just give it the brand name because that's obviously a brand name. Cognicin is a patented form of just acetylcholine.
Oh, okay, that
So,
makes sense.
so I would take alpha GPC 90% because of the reason it had alpha in the title and just made me feel like a bit of a dick when I took
Is that it? I don't know a
That's
fuck about
why.
neurotransmitters.
Why would I take acetylcholine when I can take alpha? See, come on, bruv. But part of the reason I chose the alpha was because I could have got it in pipette form, and it was just another form of taking something without another pill to swallow as well. Pyrocene, I took it in powders because, again, less pills. So I love, do you know what? Fair play to them that they've done this as a drink and not a pill, because people don't necessarily need another physical pill to be taken, and on top of other things that could really, really help them out.
And people remember to take stuff, right? So, I remember, if I'm not saying I'm too lazy to make a protein shake, right? But if I have, again, all credit to Huel, they have made a very good tasting. Feel free to sponsor the podcast, Huel. They're very good tasting, ready to drink, right?
Yeah.
That now, and this is marketing genius, they have. It's not only now something where you can put it in the fridge. So you open your fridge, it's all ready to go, and you just take one, which means I remember to take it more than going to the back of the cupboard, getting the protein tab out, because yes, it'd be easier if it's on the side, but then I don't have much kitchen space to put it in the blender. Like there's a lot of decisions to get to that point of drinking it. Yes, not many, and if taking your shake in the morning is your top priority, it's not that much of a big deal. But like taking away that decisions. Whereas if I'm drinking a Coke Zero every day, if I switch it to one of these, I've made a straight swap without changing my daily routine that may be giving me some benefit. So I think the drink is a great thing. And going back to the Huel thing, have you seen the Huel vending machines now?
So really?
In almost in every train station. Fantastic idea. How many people want? They've got a lot of travel and they want to have a healthy meal, and like Pret doesn't do anything worthwhile. Boom! Here's a Huel tub. I've done it lots of times. Fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, really, and that's one of the places. Airports and train stations, you're stuck. If you want some sort of decentish protein source, you're really limited. If I am just running through somewhere, but I feel a little bit like I need something, I'm looking for a Bear shake from WH Smith. 9 times out of 10, they're not cold, so I'm not buying it. And then what do? Well, nothing really. It's either go completely off plan or just have absolutely nothing. So to have something like that as an option could be cool. For me personally, when I tasted Huel, but this was way back. We're going a couple of years back now, if not slightly longer. It weren't for me. That could be entirely different now. And when needs must, you can overlook something that doesn't taste the best if it actually helps you with what you need. I think it's important to remember as well, your biggest issues are not going to be fixed by a supplement in pill, powder, potion form. It's not. We've spoke about this multiple times. That hierarchy of whatever the goal is, really comes from your overall calorie balance, your macronutrients, your micronutrients, your hydration. Supplementation is at the very, very top of the pyramid, not because of its importance, because of its small area space. It's the least important thing. If you've not got other stuff in place, the supplement you take is not going to fix anything, right? I think that's the same when it comes to your productivity.
I agree, but I'll say a caveat to both of those things. Because I think I always, when I look at the pyramid and I do my version of it with my students, I always put the top as the small stuff. And I make a point of going, I didn't say supplements. Because let's say if you are somebody who has various vitamins and mineral deficiencies, you're not metabolically healthy, then that supplement could be much bigger because it just fills that gap to get you in a place where you're moving. And then that could be the thing that makes you become more consistent. And as you become get healthier and healthier and healthier, that supplement drops in levels of importance. We also got to consider the fact now, without going into a big supplement rant, that the quality of our produce now is not what it used to be. Right, 100%. We can talk about the pesticide spray and the soybeans, the seed oils. The difference, and this is the big one, the difference in omega-3 to omega-6 ratios now in the Western diet. Like, do you know this ratio now? It's supposed to be like 2 to 4 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. So we can go, cool. If that was the case, like it was 50 years ago, we omega-3 supplement, small piece of the puzzle. Don't need it. We are 25 to 1 in the Western diet of pro-inflammatory. So,
oh my God.
So to say that omega-3 is just the 2%, fuck off, aren't they? Right? Wow. They are a huge pit that I would put into almost into the big nutrition bottles of that pillar.
Yeah.
And I would also say the same thing to a lesser degree with some of the nootropic stuff, because is it the thing that's your biggest problem? No. But if you feel more productive, if you feel more clear-headed, that allows you to make better choices. That could be the thing that's actually most important, because it's the catalyst. In the same way that people talk about semaglutide, we spoke about that before, right? Semaglutide, is it always a good thing? The jury's out. But if you're trying to say, look at meal timing, look at calorie balance, eat some vegetables, with that person in that genetics episode we spoke about, like, who lives in the middle of a city, gets liver every day, doesn't know how to cook, hates vegetables, and is always hungry. Like if they're always hungry, there is no chance they're listening to your advice. Whereas if you can take the hunger off, then they're probably more receptive to you talking about, well, let's talk about your sleep. Let's talk about the food choices. So I think supplements have their absolute place. And I don't think it's a bad shout, but I think it feel a bit cop-out-y. But that, again, I think it's partly my fault and the marketing.
But I would say, again, like your overall blood flow, the quality of information you can uphold is both from your physical and your mental diet. And your productivity will always come from your productivity, your focus, your concentration will always come from your environment first. If those things aren't set up to succeed, a drink's not going to help you apart from give you a little bit of a buzz. Like, that drink's not going to outperform 8 hours of quality sleep per night. No way in hell. Okay, a little bit of caffeine, yes, of course, that's going to help. Tired days, yes, of course. Long, you've been sat at and we've got to define what productivity is, because productivity sat in front of a laptop for 9 hours is different to productivity on a building site, right? And one requires a lot more physical enhancement than the others. So it's quite a broad term when you think about it. But again, this is not slagging the drink off, but there will be a lot of people, just because you could put them in the influencer bracket, that will go, okay, this is the thing that's going to fix my issue. I can't concentrate. I can't really get the work done that I need to do, without looking at the fact that they're staying up till 1 a.m. scrolling on their phone, the fact that their diet's pretty fucking shitty, the fact that they're not actually enjoying what they're doing because maybe it's not what they need to be doing. There's a lot of things that are going to increase that are environment based.
That's a really interesting thing. That's a really interesting point you just made there as well, because we said it from the influencer standpoint, right? Like not many people are going to look at. First thing I do is look at the ingredients, but not many people are going to look at them, and if they do, not understand what they are, right? Like in the same way that you gave me a bit of software that makes accountancy easier, I wouldn't be able to understand what the fuck's going on with this thing, right? Because I'm not an accountant, so no judgment to anyone like that. Because I'm just a weird nerd that likes to look at ingredients on fucking supplement bottles because I'm an idiot. But this is now going to be spawned by influencers who buy the drink because they feel that because James and Chris are big, that if I'm seen with the drink, I will get some of the proxy and fame and attention because of them.
Yeah.
And then because of that their followers will buy it because insert influencer name here, let's say Joseph Akitch. I'm not saying he's going to buy it, but he's got a big following, right? Joseph Akitch buys the drink. He shows the drink. People buy the drink. So that's like how many people are buying this because it actually is going to have benefit rather than the hype. And that brings us segues on nicely into the power of marketing, because I actually think, to agree, my disappointment of this is partly because I expect my own personal thing, my fault, and like the goodwill I had. 2, because of the goodwill, I expected something that fitted their personalities better. But 3, because the way they marketed this, it sounded so much more than a drink. And Chris is a master of hype. That's what he does. He always talks about hype, right? As we did it with Carnage in the UK, which I didn't realize he was involved in. That's cool. He did this with nightclub promotions, all this sort of stuff. And he had all these great little images and pictures. Like it wasn't about podcast anymore. It's like it was big enough to interrupt his podcast feed. And then it was like, we've been working on this a year. We've had arguments and fights. It's like, God, there's this story behind this. It was like, it's a fizzy drink, right? Like, you spent 12 months arguing about a fizzy drink? Like, get a life.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind being, a fly on the wall, figure out who's better certain dosages, who got their victory there over certain things, flavors. I'd love to have seen that sort of stuff. You know,
I
and I
put
think
money
that's
on the addition of caffeine is James's.
yeah, I'd say so. The yeah, and again, it's not to slag it off at all in the slightest.
No.
I wholeheartedly disagree. Just what you said about like marketing hype. As soon as it came out, a lot of people on Twitter, James Smith, you're a sellout. It's not. That's not a sellout. He's just created a product.
Yeah,
A
no, he's
sellout
not.
would be someone that is doing something that it goes completely against their normal standards, ethics, morals, behaviours, just for financial gain. Not in the slightest is that a sellout thing. He's created a product that he sees that maybe there's a gap in the market that is calling for it. Why not be the person to provide it? Because if you've got the right ethics there, you could, provide a good thing. This is a complete opposite of a sellout. And as far as I'm aware, James Smith Academy, which is the only thing that he's been selling for X amount of years, apart from his shows and events, is less than a tenner a month. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, come on, man. That's not a sellout.
I agree.
Not in the slightest. And the same with Chris. I don't think anyone's called Chris a sellout over it as well. But again, James Smith's easy target, right? There will be people that buy it, absolutely adoring Chris Williamson, but hate James Smith, but they'll still buy it. There will be people that buy it the opposite way around as well, and there will be people that buy it who hate both of them because again, there is that opportunity for them to ride that wave, ride that hype wave, and for them to make money out of such a thing rather than. I mean, I'm pretty sure at this moment in time you can get it on Amazon, which means if you've got the old Amazon affiliate codes, you're getting paid for selling New Tonic without being an affiliate of the product.
Interesting. Like I
and
do
just
think
get my code.
The marketing of it has been like Chris is very smart. Like to the degree, when he did the clip of them having a chat on Zoom about the product. Have you noticed that Chris is always, when you go on his profile, he always shows like the picture of the guest or the full picture of him. You never see the split screen, right? It's always like a still.
Yeah.
And then he showed a split screen. And I thought, that is such a clever thing. Like to break the format so people will now click on that video because it looks more amateur. And that's done by design. Like in the same way that I think with these episodes, Stephen Bartlett pointed this out, and I totally agree. He'll write the name of the episode. Andrew Human, Tips for the Brain. Brackets, 4K.
Yeah.
That's great. Like, and I do think that Chris is generally one of the best hype guys in the world, and he's done it with. We've talked about this before, right? With his titles, he hasn't had to stoop to anything. It's done by very, very smart. What do you think overall of the marketing campaign for this, from the photos to the pictures to how it's done? Like, how have you taken it?
So again, the Illuminati graphic design on the can, fantastic. Other than that, considering who owns this product, who created this product, I thought the actual general overall look of everything is a little bit tame. The two of them standing there happily drinking a can in yellow. I don't know how many pictures you've seen, obviously, but like the billboard type advertising that they're getting ready, like they're both in yellow Hawaiian shirts.
I disagree slightly, and because I think I'm maybe this is me reading too much into this, but the whole marketing before was them looking very bored in suits, in whites and greys, and just this sort of gloomy look, and then there was then there was them in bright colours smiling.
Okay,
I think the whole
seen
point
that
was the contrast. Like now we have the drink. We are like, hey, that's how I took it.
I hadn't seen the suit pic, so that makes more sense now. But still, it's playing the game a little bit. But maybe that's what you have to do. These things, I don't know. I've never released one of these, but I'm just on their page now. It's cool, but I would have thought everything would be a lot more in my face, especially coming from someone like James Smith.
But I think there's a beauty of subtlety. And you're probably going to know we're going with this. And I think we're going into sort of like marketing and hype packages. One of the best ones ever. And of course, it's WWE because it's me. there was a wrestler called Bray Wyatt. May he unfortunately rest in peace because he died in the summer. But he returned about a year ago, about last sort of October time, and everyone loved him. And he had this sort of character for people who don't know pro wrestling, which is he was originally like a creepy cult leader. Then he became like a Mr. Rogers sort of like horror character. Everything was like really thought of as lore and backstory, and there was intricacies because Bray is one of these amazing storytelling brains.
Yeah.
And it started off, and I can't remember this, whereas like we started seeing because in the Mr. Rogers character, he had these like creepy puppets, and they started like just appearing in the background of shots. Like no one brought it up. And then, oh no, it didn't. That was the second part. The first part on live events, right? Not televised.
Right.
The lights went off when it went to commercial like breaks, and red lights appeared, and it started playing White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah, I remember.
And like this wasn't on TV, right? But obviously people are like, well, why are we playing White Rabbit? And people are like, why that song? Because normally they just play like the stock music from SmackDown or whatever else. Like, why are they playing that all of a sudden? And then they started seeing the puppets in the background. Is this something to do with Bray Wyatt? And then all of a sudden QR codes started appearing. So there's a QR code in the box. There's a QR code. And then he slowly became more and more obvious. And there was a QR code like on the back of the microphone. It was just subtle placements. Nothing was mentioned at any point on TV. There was no hints of Bray Wyatt on TV. There were just these QR codes that people went on. They went to websites that had like little like graphics that hinted at clues of something coming. And then they were so subtle, yet not subtle that people didn't know what was coming. Right. So people started getting excited. And if you didn't know, if you didn't read the dirt sheets, if you weren't looking at the background chat on YouTube channels, you may have been forgiven for missing this entire thing. And I think that is wonderful. Like subtlety in marketing. And if this is, and maybe they did, maybe we'll look back at this in a few years' time and go, we left hints for a year on James's videos and my podcasts, and like that's the stuff that I would like saying. Like I say this to you, right? Like if we ever did something, we get hype, we ever released a product, we should start dropping a year out. Like know what it is, but like that back corner changes into a QR code, or there's a little picture of a can because we're going to do a drink, of course, right? Like at the top of this, or just something that like is inconsequential. Like there be something in the skeleton.
Yeah.
And then over time it'll slowly be like you put a QR code on your Instagram story and then you do nothing. You don't mention it, no caption, and then you leave it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Like that is how marketing.
Well, you never know. I've just come off of their site. There is a video. I'm going to watch this video later. It's like half an hour long, but I'm going to watch it on how it came to be, the idea, the research, the development, and the overall journey. I hope that video goes into those two things, like why and how they created the idea for this before the research and the development, because all the nootropic research is out there, right? It's a largely research field. You've just got to find the relevant studies for the use of that nootropic for you and the relevant dosage as well, because it's all dose dependent. And so many products out there are so underdosed on this stuff, it's a waste of money. I would be really interested to see if they get into, like, was there anything like that? Is there anywhere they've already kind of spoke about this, dropped it on a podcast that I probably didn't listen to or something along those lines? But I definitely want to hear about how and why they decided to go down.
How he should have done it. You know, he always drank Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
I think he should have put like on the logo of Dr. Pepper, just put an eye over it one day, like just sellotaped a paper eye, and like no one even noticed it. That would have been so cool. Just like
yeah.
For anyone that's into magic and they watch Darren Brown, right? He's all big into subliminal messaging. So we had that video of him. He got a guy to commit like assassinate Stephen Fry at a live show. He didn't realize he did it, and it was all based of like things you saw on billboards or walking past, or people in certain said little things to him, or people wearing certain colored T-shirts. I'm like this stuff gets in our head, and if you can harness that marketing, you'd be amazed. Like, and you have to have a product that you're willing to like. You have to be in like James Smith's position, or at least working on something where like let's say let's say we ever did something like you're making money from your PT, you're making money from the fast lane, I'm making money from like the SMU. So it's not like I need this to work, but like so you're willing to give this a long game, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be your only business.
Yeah. It could have been so much worse, right? It could have been a sports clothing line. That's what it could have been. So, like, thank God it is a drink that could taste absolutely delicious and help people out in some way, shape, or form. At least they've not tried to compete with Gymshark. There was one guy I saw that was like a tweet, an anonymous account that got deleted anyway, where he said, "Oh, you're just battling against Prime," and they're not, because Prime is just pure fucking junk. It's not advertised to be anything apart from most people bought it because they're morons, just for the fact that it's Logan Paul and KSI. I don't even know who fucking KSI is, bruv, right? I don't even know. I know he now does some boxing. I don't get it. I really don't know who or what this is. It could be AI. I don't know. But I don't think they're trying to compete against anything. It's if a PT or a fitness influencer or someone along those lines comes out nowadays with their own clothing line, it's because they've seen what Gymshark and Booty and Sweaty Betty and to an extent Lululemon and the bigger ones can do. And obviously Gymshark's gone, mega global, and they've got their own physical stores now. Which that Regent Street place is amazing. It's really, really cool. They haven't done that. They've come up with something that obviously they wanted to do. Nootropic drinks isn't a competitive market as such. You can't go into Pret and grab one. You can't go into WH Smith and grab one. They're not really anywhere on the high streets. It's not a super, super competitive place to do so. So again, the calls a sellout are fucking moronic because it's not. But I do really, really want to understand. I'm going to watch that vid. Why and how they come up with this, and what is the journey? What were the arguments? I love this stuff. It's origin story stuff, right?
I completely agree.
One of the greatest photos I've ever seen. We can talk about the best photos ever taken on the planet of wildlife, of things in World War II, all sorts of stuff. One of my favorite photos of all time is Jeff Bezos sat in his original office with a spray painted Amazon on a piece of paper up against the wall. And those were the early days of Amazon. I absolutely love that photo because it just shows doesn't matter what the start of your journey is, flipping hell. And to be a nanobot inside his brain at that moment in time and listen to his thoughts must be it's like the knowledge of the universe, basically. If you had access to that, my God. So I think it's always worth listening to how these people came up, why and how they come up with these ideas. So I'll definitely be digging into that, unless it's Prime, because that's a sellout. That's a fucking sellout.
Yeah. Yes, I do think there was probably a bet. I bet if you looked at this, I bet Prime was one of the initial influences, because obviously James did that video bashing it, amount of caffeine in it, and I'm like, well, maybe it was like, what, there's going to be a demand for people here that are now going to be going off Prime because they realize the stuff that's in it. Let's fill that market. Let's give them the better alternative, which I think is very, very smart, right? And I'm certainly intrigued by this, but like going into finishing off a bit, like a bit of fun thing here, because we've obviously talked about this drink for a while. Like in terms of I spoke about the WWE one, but in terms of marketing campaigns, or whether it's even just adverts, right? What do you think that's either been the best ones that spring to mind, and why? Whether it's because they're good, whether it's because they're controversial.
What's fantastic about advertising? So how sometimes you get an earworm, and it's a song that just keeps playing, whether it's a melody, whether it's the word, whatever the hell it is. It's just a little bit of that song that keeps playing over and over and over again in your head. Sometimes, have a think about this. Next time you notice it happening, I reckon it happens more often than not. So many of the times it's jingles from adverts rather than an actual song that you would listen to.
Go compare.
There's Juice Loose About This Hoose. That one gets me off. Fuck ton. Maynard's Wine Gums, you bastards. That one's done me for decades, right? Every now and then. And it can just be, I see Wine Gums. It can be one of my favourite bands, Tool, Maynard James Keenan. It can be the name Maynard. It can be when we was up in Edinburgh. Man, that song was in my head the entire weekend. I'm not even kidding you. Because all I'm seeing is geezers in kilts and the Scottish accents. That song was in my head more than I'd ever let anyone know. That one does me for some reason. But it could be little jingles, it could be images. I think the greatest marketing campaign of all time, because it creates an emotion, a feeling, a sensation, and the start of a season. Coca-Cola Christmas truck. I think that's genius.
I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And I like the interesting about what you're saying about the jingles is they don't always have to be good. Like people
No.
hated the Go Compare adverts, and people got very fed up with Compare the Meerkat.
Mm.
But if they need car insurance, where are they going?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's the thing that sticks in
Yeah.
their head. It's the same thing about Beachbody Ready by Protein World. That got a bunch of hate, right? Which I think is mad because like the people that hated it, they were saying like, "Are you saying you can't be big and beautiful?" I'm like, yeah, but the people who are like generally happy being bigger and feel that they are beautiful probably don't give a fuck about protein adverts. They probably walk past that on the tube and it's like just another supplement thing. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people that stopped and got that offends me. Why does it trigger you? Which suggests that you are not happy with your weight
Yep.
and you want, rather than doing anything about it, you want to lash out to the company
Yeah.
that showcases a woman. Because again, I always feel, and this is, I don't want to go too much on the tangent, this may be a different topic. We all talk about hate for people who are bigger, but no one fights for hate of people who are in shape, right? Like, why do we have the right to demonize that woman on the poster's body? Like, why is that okay? In the same thing, when I got in shape for my last photo shoot, I was on a junk and a woman came up to me and basically sarcastically went, "You must only care about the gym. How many push-ups do you do a day?" And I'm like, if I said to you, you must only, she wasn't overweight, but imagine she was. If I said to you, you must only care about eating, I bet you don't know what a walk is. I'd be slapped, rightly so.
Yeah.
Rightly so. But like, why is it fine the other way around? But anyway, that got hate, and hate does sell. You remember that. That how many years on are we? I remember that. Do I remember any advert for my protein? No. Right? So I think things like that are great. Like same thing now, like Belly's gonna get you. That falls both into the jingle category and the advert that was potentially a bit not so triggering at the time, but would be very triggering now.
Imagine that. Imagine that. Oh, please bring it back. Come on. That would be amazing if they did. But they won't. Too infiltrated. Oh,
my
God.
favorite. We're going to adverts here, but my favorite, one of my favorite adverts was not this one, but the parody of it. So remember the Levi's advert where they had the people running through the walls and up the trees?
Yeah.
And then there was this lilt advert of these two old, slightly overweight Jamaican grandmothers in sort of like this old people's home. And they're running through these walls and then they get tired and they lean on the palm tree. Like that was wonderful. And then the other one that always springs to mind is Guinness.
Okay.
The masses of the advert. And there are three examples that come to mind, all very different. We had the obviously the horses. Everyone talks about that being the greatest advert of all time. The snails was my favorite one. Have you seen the snail advert for Guinness?
Snail, maybe. I think so.
So for the people that haven't, you got these people of this betting. We think whether it's cockfighting or dogs. People are running in. They're betting at the bookies. These crowds are getting hyped up. They're buying drinks. They're ready to go. All of a sudden, the gun goes off. It's just snails. And they just stand still. And what's brilliant about this is the first initial laugh is that it's snails and they're slow. And it lingers just enough to make that funny. And then all of a sudden they go, Brow! And they spin off around the track. And like the third advert that Guinness did that brings to mind is, remember the guys taking the sip of Guinness, then going backwards in time? So they go back,
that one.
the whole advert, they go back to newts. They go back through evolution.
Right.
You drink and they always go back to the like literally their newts on the side of like a river. And what's great about it is they did various versions of this advert where something happens that stops the timeline. So at one point they got back to the Neanderthals and then he just froze because it was the Ice Age.
Okay.
And then I think if I remember correctly, did another one where the guy fell over backwards as he took the first step. So you not only was it a good advert, but you went into going, which version of this advert is that?
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I hadn't seen that one. To be fair, I don't watch much TV now anyway. And if I do, and the ability to skip the adverts is there, of course I'm going to be skipping them. But obviously, there's not really any controversial marketing that I see nowadays. Obviously, Belly's going to get you very controversial. Would be the end of Reebok if they did that now. the tango slapping people would not be able to get away with that now. And to be fair, it'd be stabbing now anyway, which is slightly more accurate and less offensive to some people. But like, I swear, pot noodle wasn't there an ad where they would call each other slags or something like that? Like guys calling each other
Yeah.
slag, like you slag or something like that. Like it just everything's a bit soft now, and I think in this era where we do still have controversial films, we do still have controversial comedians, but the complaint rate is obviously through the roof because people are fucking pansies. It's very, very difficult to have that sort of controversy in marketing campaigns, and I'd love to know when the switch was flipped on that decision that we're not going to do this sort of stuff anymore. Because 90s advertising, fantastic, right? Obviously, I can't remember every single ad I've ever seen, but if I were to have the opportunity to go through, sit down and write out all the favourite ads I've ever seen of all time, of course it would probably be in the 90s because that's when there was some attitude. And I'm all about controversy and attitude and passion and power rather than just, this is a new brand of fucking whatever. You know, I like a bit of a punch with my advertising.
I've actually now come back from. I've watched a few recent adverts. Like there's one about a mountain goat and a paraglider that I think is very, very good.
Right.
Like Brits do adverts better than anything else.
Sure.
Like the Cantonese adverts in Hong Kong are just mental. I don't understand a word they're saying, but like there's these great adverts that trying to warn you about like escalator danger in case you fall off them or get foot caught or something like this. And there's one with this clip of his foot caught and his foot swelled like the whole size of the escalator. There's another person where they've clearly fallen over, must have hit their head, but it looks like they've just got this red beret on. It's very strange. But like I always remember I like adverts that sometimes surprise me. I like pattern breaks. So I remember, do you remember the advert where the boring ones we always used to get where people are going, have you been hurt in an accident at work? Like the claims, right? And they did these ones that were always walking down the stairs.
Right.
So there were people walking down these stairs and all this list of like sort of like lawyers in suits, of course, going, have you been hurt at work? Have you had like, you know, if a company spilt coffee on you, whatever else. Right? And they had this general advert where they got someone on the stairs and he said like, join, you know, Stephen and Sons or whatever it was. And then they once did one where they go halfway through the last line and then someone falls over down the stairs and hurts themselves. And apparently this wasn't meant to be. Like they generally just like tripped over halfway through their line, and he kicked in and showed it as like an alternative version of the advert because it was quite fitting that someone got hurt at work.
That's too funny.
I was like, did they sue him? You know, like, because otherwise it's not a great advert.
Yeah. Man.
Do you know what I think who did the best marketing campaigns going off adverts?
Go on.
Magazines. So I bought, I don't know if you bought this as a kid, How My Body Works. Do you remember How My Body Works little books? The little books where you buy like this very small hardback.
The
digestive system, the muscular system, right? Because I was destined to be a nerd. But they had this plastic thing that your little bill was like a plastic coating of a human being, and then you got an individual part, like I got an intestine or I got a muscle, and then you built it over the course of collections. I also did an art one where you got the box on the initial pack, and then you got a different paintbrush or things like this every week to build out this collection. I was like, that's great marketing because it's like, yes, you may not have the big hype getting the first one, but if you give away something epic in the first one, but you need the next 20, 25 editions to finish it, people will continue to buy the magazine. And advertising for kids is, I think, the smartest play. Because, and do you know anything about American TV ratings? I know a bit because of pro wrestling. Most TV companies care about the 18 to 34 demographic.
Really?
And apparently it's because they have the biggest, and they obviously, these people have done research, they'll know more than me, but they apparently have the biggest spending potential. Right, so if we have more people from 18 and 34, they're more likely to buy the product.
Sure.
Buy the advertising, or the sponsors, or the advertising, whatever it's been on the in commercial breaks. I think, but most people are broke until about 34, and they make their real money from probably like 34 to 65. I would thought the 34 to 50 demographic would be the best earning potential, but maybe they've got everything they want. They don't need, you know, a fancy pizza cutter. I don't know.
I think there's argument there that as you get to that older age, you'll probably be a bit more conservative with your spending.
I don't know. Are you? Because I'm still in the 18 to 34 demographic, just about.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good shout. I don't know. Yeah.
But they had but I always think like other than that, but also I think advertising to kids is game changing because if you've got a kid that wants this, Daddy, I want this magazine, you'll buy it eventually. Your cave. Like my dad used to have to go around supermarkets in different directions to avoid those little machines that sway because I would cry and I would throw my toys out the pram. So you create things for children, parents will buy it.
Massively. Of course. And it's not just because they think it's the best thing for the kid. It's also because it will stop the kid from moaning, and they don't want the kid moaning. It's genius marketing, really. And that's the thing. Well, Prime didn't really have to market itself, really. Those two just had to say, "Look, here you go,
You got a
and
drink.
this," and suddenly, and it was everywhere. And who's a large percentage of their audience? Well, younger guys, right? Younger kids, and mummy, daddy, I want this bottle because they want to take their photo for Instagram, even though they're 7 years old. It's ridiculous. It definitely flipping works. And again, we're bringing it back to Christmas marketing for a second. Like, that's when kid heavy marketing is there, right? And we see this with drinks as well. Sunny D was the first Sunny D ad was a kid going to the fridge. There's
Kinder.
Kinder, my God. So it's a massive, obviously a massive demographic of people to market for to get the parents spending, not the kids spending, obviously. Which is sketchy in itself a little bit if you think about it. But then what marketing isn't? That's the whole point of marketing is to twist your thinking round and to create an emotion, whether that's a negative or a positive emotion, to invest in a particular product. The data that they know about us now, my God, when I first worked for a national newspaper 20 years ago, the data they had on from marketing and advertising on people's buying decisions and emotions to certain news stories was terrifying back then. Now add to the mix that in that time Facebook and all the others have existed as well. They know everything. They know everything. They know exactly what's going to hit your buttons, exactly what words to use, what colors to use, what you're likely to buy after a major world event. It's beyond terrifying the amount that they know. And you can look at that as seasonal marketing as well, right? The Christmas marketing for the major brands that do Christmas marketing, it's like it kind of leaves you with an emotion at the end of it, right? Sainsbury's did.
John
What was it?
Lewis.
Was it Sainsbury's or John Lewis who did the the football in the World War?
John Lewis does the ones every year that always pull on the
Yeah.
heartstrings, right?
So
Like,
maybe
that
it
one
was.
that they gave his granddad a present, which everyone took the piss out of as a Pornhub voucher.
Yeah, yeah.
But we had the dogs
God.
jumping
Yeah.
on the trampolines.
Yeah. But even like the other day, I mean, I've got the young girl I train, Maddie. She's obsessed with Christmas. It's hilarious, and she's already seen all the Christmas adverts and already been talking about it for like about a month. John Lewis advert will be out on this point, and I think M&S released one and they got slated for it because apparently it was terrible, or I don't know, I didn't see it. I saw on my phone just yesterday a trailer for the John Lewis advert. That's how much of a big thing it is now. A marketing campaign for their Christmas marketing campaign. That's genius. That's genius.
And we haven't mentioned there as well. I had a couple of closing questions for you, but I think this is a good point, a little segue. We haven't even mentioned here the hype of Hollywood, right? Trailers. Like, I will go to the cinema early because I actively want to watch the trailers. How have you got me so interested in the marketing, sometimes more than the film? There are trailers I want to see where I have no desire to watch the actual film, which might mean it's a bad trailer, I suppose.
There's been occasions where if I'm running late and I know I'm going to miss the trailers, my experience is lessened because of that. I want to see the trailers. They are like little mini movies in themselves. They really are. And you can complain that a good film is based on a bad film can be based on how much they showed you in the trailer. They've showed you the good bits already. But when you're watching the film, you don't recognize that until afterwards. You don't sit there with that big bit and go, "Oh, I've already seen that in the trailer. That's less of a thing." You're taking it as one entire thing. But if you think the massive teams that are behind Hollywood productions will have a massive team just behind building that trailer up as well. It's amazing. It's amazing the world
the
of
same
marketing.
thing. Bringing it back to podcasting. Like Stephen Bartlett, I saw an interview with him, and I said this to you before. Like he we complain about his titles, and yes, he gets the final say and everything. But during the episode, whilst he's recording, they're running Facebook ads and thumbnail designs for various things that people are saying. So by the time the interview was ended, imagine that. By the time I click stop on this record, imagine we had the most viral things we could put in trailers and on thumbnails. And like, it's our fault, the clickbaity, in a way, because like that's who he's testing.
Yeah.
So like, a couple of questions. I've got a short fire one to finish on, but like one sort of like last slightly longer one. Like, do you think that marketing now has the bigger power to influence the world than anything else? Because we're in this world where we're it's an information, like attention society. Social media is bigger than ever before, and it's not. We don't even believe the news anymore. So it's who appeals to us from our marketing perspective that often defines what we think is true.
It's the sad answer is that any way you are pretty much any way you are presented, any information now is based on some sort of marketing campaign, from politics to religion to products to whatever. It all is. You could easily say that these aren't politicians; they're marketers now. They have their campaigns, they have their policies based on what companies have invested into them to try and push that policy across the spectrum of world politics and across the spectrum of different sectors as well. That all comes from a marketing perspective. Even, my God, even the horrific things that are going on in Israel and Gaza now, there's marketing campaigns behind that on how they present the information to you. There's interest in that. There is no impartial news organization. There just isn't one. Nothing presents you the stuff as it is. And that can't always be the case, because everything has to be confirmed. And sometimes the business lives and dies on just getting you the information first, rather than it being the most accurate information, which is a large part of the problem with the media. Everything's marketed to you. This is the sad state of affairs. And it's been that way for longer than we realise. A lot longer than we realise. It's not a recent last 10, 20 years thing. This is early 1900s, if not earlier.
Yes, this is the thing. This has been all my life that's been biased in the media. I think the difference is there potentially are more, and I don't want to necessarily get into why in this episode, but there are more agendas, there are more ulterior motives, and I'm not talking Illuminati. I'm talking profit.
Yeah,
certainly
profit.
in America, or political influence than there was before. Everyone leaned, but I do think it was more of a we need to get the information out first, sort of Elliot Carver and Tamar Never Dies problem.
Exactly.
Then there was a we want to fund something. So to finish off this show, and we talked about building hype. So I'm going to build hype for you with our last question of the day. So a week on Sunday, you have one question to ask Chris Williamson. If we manage to see him after his show ends, which, by the way, is a week on Sunday, what are you asking him?
What would I ask him? God, can... pre-question of will there ever be the OnlyFans? Or is there already an OnlyFans? What would I ask him? What would I want to really, really know from him? I thought about this the other day, just in case there is the opportunity for a Q&A or something like that. I think what's very important, what's been on my mind for a little while now, is the potential for podcast guests to disrupt and damage certain industries based on misinformation. We've spoke about this a lot with the guests on Stephen Bartlett's. Some of those are almost what would you call it? I don't know. I would say some of them are almost barriers to people getting in the best shape that they possibly can, because there is information, confusion, contradiction, all sorts of stuff. And in a way, you would say it should be the role of the podcaster to police that, especially if that could enhance or conflict with his own investments, right? Now, obviously, Chris Williamson is a very, very different type of podcaster, and he gives good pushback along the lines of Rogan as well. So I think, does he ever feel a responsibility with the guests that he gets on? Because he doesn't seem to just get anyone on. Does he ever feel a responsibility with who he gets on and how he interviews them, or how much pushback he does give to certain things when thinking about the wider spectrum of where people really need help in their lives as well.
I think so. And I also think, like, because remember he did the episode of with Andrew Tate, right? And
Apparently,
he did not promote,
didn't
push,
release,
he didn't release the episode because it was like during the middle of the COVID stuff, and he didn't want the misinformation there. And you remember him getting a warning off Instagram just because he posted the "Hi Andrew, how are you?" basically, which is weird. But and he also I also remember when he had Brian Johnson on, not the Liver King, the other Brian Johnson, and he was he questioned him on veganism. Because, and I think that's it. Like, people can have their own opinions, and people can have different opinions, and people can put different stock and priority on various things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the fact that you at least got to ask that question, and I sometimes don't think Bartlett does that. He just goes along and there. And it's a quisky thing, right? Because, like, you're not there to piss off your guests. But I think Williamson is good enough in his vocabulary to be able to do that the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my question would be,
I'd hope we'd get 10 minutes each to Q&A, because there would be more. There would be more questions.
My question would be, I'm that. That person that goes, if I had 3 wishes, I'd ask for 3 more wishes. I'm that person that go, will you come on the Self-Made podcast?
Like, simple as.
If they're having 2 minutes, can I ask you for an hour? Yeah. No, I mean, I may ask you about the drink. Like, what made you go for a drink over a coaching product or something else? That might be my question. Because other than that, I think the guy is very. And I'm not even saying this is a foot wrong, but I don't think the guy's put much of a foot wrong in his career.
Yeah, wouldn't say so.
So for people who want to, maybe, because I'm sure there'll be some content around the event would come a week on Monday. For people who want to follow that and maybe see if you asked this question, where are people following you?
So the best place for that will be Fat Loss Fastlane on Instagram and all other platforms apart from Twitter, which is my actual name. That will be the best place.
I mean X.
On X, sorry, I still call it Twitter. Sorry, Elon.
I hate it.
Still call it Twitter.
Because I sent out a tweet. I sent out an X. Is that what you're supposed to say? I X'd?
Well, now I think he said they're just posts. They're just posts.
It's boring, isn't it?
Which is a bit boring.
What kind of marketer is he?
Which is a bit boring. But then X is always going to be Twitter. Meta is always going to be Facebook. Always going to be, right?
Yeah.
No one's really going to change it unless you're working for the company. So that'll be the best place to find us and stay up to date on the event sometimes. Not that I ever really do that. So we'll get there. We'll have the most amazing time. We'll get to ask tons of questions. We'll meet him personally and lick his feet and whatever, and I won't take a photograph. That's what's going to happen.
We'll do a cameo for his OnlyFans.
We'll
drink
exactly.
We'll drink loads of nootropics. Hopefully the kind that lasts 12 hours, and all will be good. But mate, absolute pleasure. Catch you next week. Thank you for listening to the Self-Made Podcast. If you like me and enjoy binge watching podcast episodes, click here for our latest episode. And if you want to stay in touch and find out when the latest episodes go live, click here to subscribe to the channel.